2010 was the year that changed everything, on and off the court. Justin Bieber's Baby ruled the airwaves, Angry Birds took over our phones, and Christopher Nolan's Inception challenged what a blockbuster could be. Meanwhile, on the hardwood, the NBA was boiling over. Kobe and the Lakers held the crown, but whispers of doubt surrounded their 2009 title. Not to take anything away from the Orlando Magic last year, but they weren't the Boston Celtics, whose 2009 season was compromised because of a season-ending injury to KG, and they also weren't the Cleveland Cavaliers, whose homegrown phenom LeBron James was arguably the best player in the league. Could Kobe and the Lakers go back-to-back? Can LeBron validate his individual accomplishments with a title? Are the Boston Celtics a one-hit wonder or a true dynasty for the ages? Legacy, pride, and a chance at history were all on the line, so join us as we deep dive into this critical year in the NBA in the year 2010, a year in review. Kobe, LeBron, and the Boston Big Three took over all the headlines and all the accolades as they were searching for some degree of validation. But as the 2010 season kicked off, a young Kevin Durant in only his third season demanded a seat at this table. One of, if not the best pure scorers of all time, KD broke out this season, leading the league in scoring at 30 points per game, the youngest player ever to average 30 for the season, and the youngest player ever to ever lead the entire league in scoring. His combination of length, shooting, and ball handling made him a deadly offensive threat, and he was leading an incredibly young OKC team in a tough Western Conference. Barely legal to drink, KD put the entire league on notice in 2010. While Kevin Durant lit up the league with his scoring brilliance, the once fiery Kobe versus LeBron debate began to cool. Not because it had been settled, far from it, but because both stars had turned inward, each locked in on his own mission. LeBron, already in his 7th season, was the face of the league and a league MVP, but still ringless. Even his peer Dwayne Wade had broken through with a title back in 2006. The noise, the doubts, the lingering questions, they were only getting louder. By 2010, LeBron was no longer the young phenom trying to hang with the big boys. Critics were beginning to ask, would he ever live up to the immense hype that had followed him since 2003? If he failed to win this year, or at least go to the finals, not even another league MVP in 2010 could mask this failure. And for Kobe, well, his mission was clear. Go back-to-back and your legacy is validated. Beat Cleveland and your legacy is elevated. Beat Boston and your legacy is cemented. The playoffs couldn't start early enough for the Black Mamba. And sure, this season reminded all of us of Kobe's greatness once again. All NBA first team, all defensive first team, third in MVP voting. But at this point though, these were all table stake achievements. That back-to-back title is what he needed, is what he was salivating over. And with Kobe leading the charge, the Lakers were once again firmly in control of the Western Conference. So naturally, the spotlight shifted to the Eastern Conference as the 2010 playoffs got underway. The real question, who would rise to challenge LA in the finals? The two Eastern Conference powerhouses, Boston and Cleveland, met in a high-stakes second-round clash, meaning one contender season would end much earlier than expected, with lasting consequences. For Cleveland, everything was on the line. LeBron James' looming free agency had cast a shadow over the entire regular season, and it loomed largest now. A second-round exit wouldn't just be a disappointment, it would be a disaster. It would slam the door on their championship window and signal the possible end of the LeBron James era in Cleveland. For Boston, the pressure was immense. This was year 3 of the Big Three era, and the window was rapidly closing. Age, injuries, and heavy mileage were piling up. If they didn't win now, they might never get another chance. And beneath it all, a creeping anxiety lingered. Would just one championship be enough to justify the Boston hype and the sacrifice of each of their 3 stars? Or would they be remembered as a dynasty that never fully delivered? This high-stakes second round tipped off in Cleveland, and through the first 2 games, both teams were going back and forth, and the series was tied 1-1 headed to Boston. In Game 3, In Boston, LeBron exploded for 38 points, including 21 points in the first quarter, setting the table from the jump and leading his Cavs to a good old-fashioned 29-point beatdown to take a 2-1 lead and what looked like firm control of the series. Then came Game 4, and Rajon Rondo happened. If last year's first-round battle with Chicago hinted at his potential, this was the breakout. In front of the Boston crowd, Rondo erupted for 29 points, 18 rebounds, and 13 assists. It was no longer just a big three. With Rondo's rise, Boston officially had a big four. With the series tied 2-2 and a pivotal Game 5 back in Cleveland, this was supposed to be a defining moment, the kind where legends rise. And for LeBron on his home floor, everyone expected dominance. Instead, what unfolded was a stunning collapse. In one of the darkest nights of his career, LeBron disappeared. He scored just 15 points on 14 shot attempts, missing 11, and looked completely disengaged. There was no urgency, no fire. The crowd at Quicken Loans Arena, stunned and frustrated, even began to boo. Boston sensed blood and unleashed a merciless 30-point demolition that crushed Cleveland's spirit and shifted the series irreversibly. And by the time Game 6 rolled around in Boston, the damage was already done. The momentum had swung completely in the Celtics' favor, and they shocked the world by toppling the league's top seed and their back-to-back MVP superstar. We all know the events that would follow: the infamous decision, the birth of Miami's Big Three, and a seismic realignment of the league's balance of power. This series didn't just end the season, it ignited a saga that changed basketball and one of its most premier stars forever. This collapse is a dark stain in LeBron's legacy, one that's never forgotten and endures as a key argument against his claim to being the greatest player of all time. With LeBron and Cleveland out, Boston faced last year's Eastern Conference champions, the Orlando Magic, in the conference finals. This time fully healthy, the Celtics dispatched the overmatched Magic in 6 games, setting up an epic rematch of the 2008 finals against LA. The rematch Kobe had waited 2 years for, the one he needed to fully validate his career, and the one Boston needed to cement their dynasty. The anticipation and drama was at an all-time high as Game 1 got underway. In fact, the first 90 seconds of Game 1 saw the team's 2 small forwards, Ron Artest and Paul Pierce, get into it as if we were watching a low-budget wrestling match, only to foreshadow the physicality, intensity, and fierce rivalry between the two franchises. Different from 2008, the Lakers' front line was much more aggressive, and they showed it in Game 1. Pau Gasol was not bowing down to Boston's Kevin Garnett, and center Andrew Bynum was a critical missing piece from the 2008 finals whose presence was felt early on. In dominant fashion, LA took the early lead in the series. Game 2 was different though, as Ray Allen put together a historic shooting clinic, drilling 8 3-pointers, which was a finals record at the time. And as the series shifted to Boston for Game 3, LA was determined to not just roll over. Behind a gutty 29-point performance from Kobe and a heroic fourth quarter performance from veteran Derek Fisher, the Lakers stole Game 3 to take a 2-1 lead. Game 4 in Boston saw the Boston bench come alive in a big way, highlighted exclusively by Glenn Big Baby Davis, one of the most underrated forwards at his position, with his unique ability to move his 290-pound body with such agility and speed, and Nate Robinson, the undersized yet highly athletic guard off the Celtics bench. The pivotal Game 5 in Boston saw Paul Pierce return to 2008 Finals MVP form as he lit up LA's defense with 27 points, scoring in isolation, at the basket, and in the mid-range. Game 6 headed back to LA, and with the Lakers' backs against the ropes, there was seemingly no way the Lakers were going to let the series slip away again, as they managed to hold Boston to just 67 points, the second lowest points total in NBA Finals history. All this set up for a climatic Game 7, a game for the ages. One game, one night, with everything on the line. The game was a bloodbath. Both teams were worn down, but both teams refused to allow an inch to the opposition. And midway through the third quarter, LA found itself down 13. The Boston defense had swarmed Kobe all night and forced him into one of the worst shooting nights of his career and probably the biggest game of his life. Kobe shot 6 for 24, and Boston demanded that another Laker lead them to victory. Pau Gasol came up huge for the Lakers, posting 19 points and 18 rebounds as he led the Lakers' comeback in the fourth quarter. The comeback was capped off with a Ron Artest three-pointer, the biggest shot of the series and the biggest shot of his very controversial, much-aligned career up until that point, giving the Lakers a 6-point lead with just under a minute left in the game. It wasn't pretty, far from it. But when the final buzzer sounded, the Lakers stood victorious, 83-79. They had climbed all the way back from the heartbreak of 2008 and settled the score with the very team that once embarrassed them on the biggest stage. And for Kobe, this was everything. This wasn't just another Finals MVP, this wasn't just his 5th ring, this was undoubtedly the sweetest of them all. The one that demanded every ounce of his will, his obsession, his sacrifice. Beating Boston meant redemption. Going back-to-back meant validation, and doing it all as the unquestioned leader meant his legacy was no longer up for debate. In that moment, with confetti falling from the rafters, Kobe didn't just add to his legacy, he cemented it. Since entering the league in 1996, he had been through it all. The early glory of the three-peat with the Lakers, the personal turmoil that turned fans and media against him, the relentless feud with Shaq that cast him as the villain, the early round playoff heartbreaks, the duels with the young LeBron, who many crowned the new king by 2007, and most painfully, the 39-point loss to Boston in the 2008 finals, a humiliation that haunted him for 2 long years. But now, after all the battles, all the scars, all the noise, he had done it. What he had been chasing all along was finally within his grasp. Not just the title of the league's best, but something even greater. The crown, the legacy, the right to be called the greatest to ever play the game.